name. So
But listen to the number, you should do it. Everybody
yeah,
takes pictures.
Yeah, we'll get a collection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cage.
No, you're always taking pictures. So, but we got you down. Golf tournament, your usual.
Yeah. I already have that. You already asked me for that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we'd like to get the Shotsuki Memorial started, so come on up. Or maybe this is everybody. Oh, here's some people. Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our September Shotsuki Monthly Memorial and Adult Dharma Service. I would like to begin by reading the names of those who've passed away in the month of September. Satsuki Abe, Joe Deguchi, John Fujimoto, Nui Fujimoto, Hiroshi Fujiwara, Fumi Fukawa, Setsuko Furuta, Chieko Harada, Chiyoko Hiramoto, Takayo Tamura Hiramoto, Hatsumi Hirao, Tatsumi Hori, Harry Hoshi, Masuji Idehara, Suekichi Idehara, Kannoku Kada, Masaru Kanada, Masutaro Kanesaki, Harry Katayama, Tomi Kisanuki, Nobuo Kitagaki, Mei Clevin, Komae Kobata, Sada Koizumi, Ruth Shigematsu Kosu, Toyo Kuwahara, Mitsu Matsui, Ronald Matsui, Kumiko Matsumoto, Tazuko Matsushino, Alice Ayako Matsutani, James Messenzel, Alice Minamidani, Eizo Minamidani, Toshiro Minamoto, Toshio Mitsuda, Kenso Miura, Kameso Miyamoto, Aiko Mizuhara, Rei Mori, Tsuru Mori, Zenshiro Mori, Russell Muraoka, Harukichi Murakishi, Tsurukichi Nagafuji, Harumi Nagai, Tsuru Naito, John Nakagawa, Rowena Nakagawa, Magohei Nakagiri, Kengo Nakahara, Chiyotaro Nakano, Kenichi Nakano, Kofuji Nakano, Yoshiko Nakao, Toyoko Nakao, Kikutaro Nakashima, Sandra Nakashima, Yoi Nakashima, Sanae Negi, Ito Nishimoto, Akio Noda, Fumiko Obayashi, Mary Fujie Ogawa, Elsie Ogata, Kai Oka, George Richard Okano, Danzaburo Okawa, Robert Oto, Kimie Ozawa, Kozo Sasaki, Ray Simon Robles, Kazuko Seiji, Reverend Shusei Shimada, Shigeru Shimamura, Miyoko Shimizu, Mitsuo Shintani, Alan Suehiro, Kazunori Tsunada, Kusutaro Tsunayama, Kaoru Suto, Marsha Tagami, Kazuo Takahashi, Fumie Takashima, George Takashima, Sugi Takashima, Harue Tamura, Hanako Terakawa Tamura, Gihei Tanada, Matsue Tani, Mary Taniguchi, Hayano Toyofuku, Chiyo Tsuchiya, Muraku Tsuchiya, Tome Tsujimoto, Kaoru Umeki, George Ushijima, Sadakichi Wada, Tomo Watanabe, Jerry Yamamoto, Joni Yamamoto, Masaru Yamamoto, Sashichi Yamamoto, Shichiro Yokomizo, Sho Yoshida, George Yoshioka, Tadaichi Yoshioka. Okay, next we will have Sutra chanting, and today we will chant Sanbutsuge, which is on page 22 in the small book and page 79 in the large book. Sanbutsuge. Namanda, 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 namanda. Kogen gigi Ijin mugok nyoze enmyo muyo tosha nichigatsumani shuko enyo kai shitsu onpei yunyaku jumok nyorai yogen chose murin shogaku daion koru jippo kaimon shojin sanmai chie itoku muryo shushoke u jintai zennen shobutsu hokkai gujin jin no kugo gaitai mumyo yokunu seson yomu Nino shishi jin tokumunyo kukun kodai chie jinmyo komyo iso 神道大仙願が差仏在所法可動生じ未不下脱不正上位解任精進如是三昧知恵以上五世特仏不行志願一切空空一切大安決し有仏百千億万無量大小修行五者供養一切使徒諸仏不如愚道見性不客非如五者諸仏世界不不可け無種節道光明師匠変師諸国如是精進異人難量量が差仏国土第一五種奇妙道場超絶国如内音任務闘争ガト愛民到達一切実法来生心熱症状意図が国経楽安穏古仏神妙是が心象発願の非力少々欲実法世尊知恵無下上領子孫知が信用権量心死食毒中画行精進忍辱不敬ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブがんにしくどく平等性一切道法 Shin Ojo Han Da Ko. Namandam, 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 namandam. Okay, thank you everyone. So I do have a PowerPoint. Let's see. Share. There. September Shotsuki Monthly Memorial and Adult Dharma Service. Welcome. Thinking that this morning, if you weren't here, we talked about the golden chain, and we sang farewell. We did some classic stuff, right? Even Gasho to Amida. And so I was thinking in farewell, there's a time we shall share the happiness faith in Buddha brings, right? Faith. And then also in golden chain, Amida's golden chain of love, right? And so I was thinking about these English words that we have in some of these, and maybe some of the older materials, right? And I think we've probably changed the translations for some of them. But today I thought I would look a little bit at a couple of those words. So one place to start is one of Shinran Shonin's wasans. So I'd like to read it to begin our service. So please join me in Gasho. Shakyamuni and Amida are our father and our mother, full of love and compassion for us. Guiding us through various skillful means, they bring us to awaken the supreme Shinjin. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo. So this is from, it's a poem by Shinran Shonin. He has these three main collections, the Jodo Wasan, Koso Wasan, and Shozo Matsu Wasan. Wasan is like poem or hymn is how they sometimes translate it. Jodo is Pure Land, so hymns of the Pure Land. Koso Wasan, that's the seven masters, the eminent monks. So that's what this comes from, hymns of the Pure Land masters. And then the third is called hymns of the Dharma ages, Shobo, Zobo, and Mappo. So there's kind of times in Buddhism. But this is from hymns of the Pure Land masters. And here he's, this poem is written kind of based on the writings of Shan Dao, one of the Chinese masters. And I love it. This is one of my favorites. So one of the problems with Gasho to Amida is something his compassion, his great compassion, right? It refers to Amida as he. So what I want to do with Gasho to Amida is make it gender neutral. The problem is, people have tried to change Gasho to Amida before and upset somebody related to the person who wrote Gasho to Amida. So I have to write a letter to the widow, the spouse of the person who wrote it. And it's a hard letter to write. I gotta write it though. So I really want to write it to have Amida as gender neutral. And one of the reasons is I think Amida transcends gender, right? Amida is true reality itself. True reality itself doesn't have all these distinctions. But even if we do look at gender and distinctions, here's a poem, right? Shakyamuni and Amida are our father and our mother. So Shinran, following Shan Dao, he doesn't declare this, but it's here, right? And I think here we can kind of read it as Shakyamuni father, Amida mother. A lot of times in Japan, they refer to Amida as Oyasama, right? And that Oyasama doesn't mean father or mother, it's parents, right? It's not gendered. Right? And so that's one thing that's happening here. Here's another one full of love and compassion. So love, what do you mean love? So I'll look at that in a little bit. And then the last one, they bring us to awaken the supreme Shinjin. Right? So this poem is great. It has gender, it has love, and it has faith. right? And so what I want to look at first is this idea of love and compassion that we see in this poem, right? That line 2, full of love and compassion for us. I think very often love gets associated with Christianity, God, right? The Christian God, as God of love, right? And this loving God. So how about in Buddhism? Do we have love in Buddhism? So I think if you look up the term love in just a modern dictionary, you're going to find this kanji, and it's pronounced I. I. Right? And so, okay, that doesn't help. I don't know what that means, right? So you got to look a little further. And I found, if you look it up, now, in a normal dictionary, it'll say love, right? No problem. But if you look it up in a Buddhist dictionary, here's what we get. Attachment to self. Includes desire for fame, wealth, and carnal pleasure. Right? That doesn't sound like the love I'm used to, right? I don't think that's the love that God of love is talking about, right? So one sense of I in Buddhism is it's kind of not a good thing, right? It's actually maybe even one of the 3 poisons, right? You're connected to desire, maybe even greed, maybe even ignorance, all 3. Attachment to self, there's no self. And why are you so grasping for things, right? This greed and desire. So that's one answer. But I looked this up in a Buddhist dictionary, okay? So there's another one. It can also mean, in the case of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, selfless compassion for all beings. So Buddhism isn't just like I, bad, that love, you shouldn't have it. It's kind of based in context, right? And so it can refer to something like greed or desire, one of the 3 poisons that keeps us attached and keeps us stuck in samsara. But in the case of Buddhas, there is a kind of I that is the Buddha's compassion and love for all beings. And that's why we can have songs like Buddha Loves You, right? Swim, swim, little fish, Buddha loves you, little fish. Right? So that love, it's Buddha's love, right? So good. So I'm not saying that love in this world is bad, right? But I think Buddhism wants to caution us, right? That sometimes that kind of love might be self-serving. Sometimes that kind of love might be kind of an out-of-control, kind of sensual thing. Sometimes it's also rooted in attachment to self. So back to this love and compassion. Now, the term, so I looked it up. I'm so fortunate, and I feel so lucky to be able to read Japanese, even though I'm not fluent. I'm not a native speaker, but I can look at the English and see full of love and compassion for us. And if you just look at the English, you're like, I don't know, is that I and something else? But I looked it up, and it's this. Can anybody read that? These 2 characters? I'll put it down. Jihi. Jihi. Right? These are the Chinese readings for these characters. So this is what Shinran Shonin uses in that poem, Jihi. That what they translated as love is not I, it's this Ji. So that character Ji is related to Maitri or Metta. I should have put metta there too. If you know, like insight meditation and that kind of thing, you'll hear like metta meditation, or and so it means friendliness, or maybe loving kindness. And this is one of the attitudes that Buddhas have and that we are encouraged to cultivate. And this is the one they related to the love of a mother for her only child. Even though it's everyone, right? It's like the love of a mother for her child. So actually, even the tradition uses this idea of love, right? Ideal love, right, of the love of a mother for a child, as maitri, as one of the ways that Buddhas feel. So what's the other one? He, right? Ji, he. So ji was that one. This is he. Now, if you can read Japanese, and you know Japanese, the Japanese reading, the Chinese reading is he, but the Japanese reading, kanashi. Kanashi. And if you know that, in modern Japanese, that means sad. Kanashi koto, kanashi na, right? That, oh, it's so sad. But that's the character that the Chinese chose to translate karuna, compassion, right? This great compassion of the Buddha. That's actually, the other metaphor is it's likened to the love of a mother for her sick child. Isn't that fascinating? Right? The first one, the loving kindness, is like the love of a mother for her child. The compassion is like the love of a mother for her sick child. And kanashi, recognizing that suffering and responding, I think, feeling that suffering. Sometimes when you read, I remember reading a Christian Buddhist dialogue or Christian Buddhist studies journal when I was studying in grad school, and there was an article by a Christian scholar or person, and they were saying, the Buddhists use this word compassion. It's a mistake, because look, it has passion in it, and Buddhas don't have passion. They're supposed to be totally just like blank and no feeling at all, no affect, just kind of like a stone or something. And that's a misunderstanding, certainly of Mahayana Buddhism and Buddhas in Mahayana, right? That the Buddha, understanding of Buddha in Mahayana is, no, Buddha suffers when we suffer. Right? That Buddha has this sadness when viewing all these people in suffering. If you've ever heard Kannon, right, Avalokiteshvara Buddha, Bodhisattva, right? The Japanese is Kannon. Kan is to perceive, on is the sounds, right? So Kannon Bosatsu is this bodhisattva that hears the cries of the being suffering, right, and wishes to respond. So that's love and compassion, right? Hello. So love and compassion, right? That we can find that in relation to Buddhas, right? So maybe love's not such a bad word. I wouldn't want to only use that. I would want to also talk about love, compassion, and maybe also that maitri, right? That loving kindness, or even just friendliness, right? That's the other problem, right? As a modern American here in the 21st century, when I hear the word love, things just pop into your mind. Romantic love. Ooh, I'm in love, right? And that's a Western notion. That's not a universal notion. And I think it's a fairly modern notion. Maybe 200 plus years ago, that wasn't so common for the term, right? So we always have to think, when we look at words like this, we have to kind of stop and think. Don't just buy into it and go with your gut reaction. We can't help it sometimes, right? But maybe we can back up and think about, okay, what do they mean? What's the terms for love? And then what do we mean when we say love, right? So here I would say love as in this, what I've been talking about. So let's move on to another term, faith. So I just want to talk about this a little bit because it's in farewell. We shall spread the happiness faith in Buddha brings. Right? So we have this word faith in a song that we didn't sing for a while, but we're singing farewell again at Dharma school, right? And so this term faith actually happens twice. And I think faith is a word that for a lot of us we have a knee-jerk reaction, right? And we think it means faith, like belief in something without actually knowing what's going on, right? That we've been tricked. There's a term, blind faith, right? That I don't want to use that much, but right, that idea that faith is like this kind of ignorant belief. That's not all that faith means, but I think we need to be aware that a lot of times we have this kind of gut reaction. So, faith. I think if you were going to look up faith, one of the words you might find is shinjin. Right? And we've heard that term shinjin. It's in the poem I read. Right? Bring us to awaken supreme shinjin. But this is thinking, if I looked up faith in a Japanese dictionary, modern Japanese dictionary, what would I find? Right? So people will use words like shinjin and ojo in modern Japanese that have nothing to do with what Shinran meant, nothing to do with a Buddhist understanding, and more just kind of modern, everyday sense. Kind of like when we say, oh yeah, they went to heaven. I don't think they're thinking of like the New Testament or the Old Testament. They're just thinking of this general idea of this paradise that people go to, right? And so similarly, with faith, some people might use the word shinjin just thinking faith. But even if faith equals shinjin, does that mean that shinjin equals faith? See, they stopped using the word faith in translating Jodo Shinshu stuff. Maybe when? Sometime in the 80s or 90s? I mean, this is recent, right? So you look at Jodo Shinshu stuff translated into English from the 50s, 60s, maybe earlier even. They might have faith for Shinjin. And I think they finally realized, a lot of people don't like that word, right? Because we're coming from a Christian context, even if we're not Christian. We just hear it in the everyday language, right? And so it's like, is that a good word for it or not? So here I want to talk a little bit. We had our ministers' Fuken summer seminar, Fukyo Kenkyu Kai, this seminar where all the BCA ministers get together and we have a meeting, but then we also are supposed to study, right, and have seminars and that kind of thing. So we heard wonderful seminar from Reverend Dr. David Matsumoto on Jodo Shinshu and disability. But then also, we talked about a variety of stuff, and even, I think it was Reverend Harada, our bishop, he was talking about, we went to Salt Lake City before the pandemic for something, and there was a something of world religions gathering. So as Shinshu ministers, we went to this gathering, and apparently there was a tour, and some people went on this tour, and they went to the Mormon temple, right? And they went to the tabernacle, maybe. I don't think they went in. Are you even allowed? I don't think you're allowed to go in if you're not, right? Unless it's like a really special occasion, right? But they saw it, and they had a bus driver who apparently was Japanese. I'm not sure if she was from Japan. I think she was from Japan. And so one of them asked her, "Do you believe this stuff?" And she goes, "Oh, yes." Right? And he said, "Kira kira me." Right? She said, "Oh, yes, I believe." Right? Just like totally bought into the whole Mormon thing. Right? So that was interesting to hear about, right? Maybe that's a kind of faith. Later on that night, I was having, after dinner, was hanging out, and I was talking to one of the other ministers who's from Japan, but he actually grew up in Hawaii, so his English is perfect, right? And so I was talking to him for a while, and then he said to me, and totally different context, but he said, "So do you believe this stuff, Buddhism?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, are you like that bus driver? Are you like the Mormon bus driver, right, with your eyes all sparkly? Oh, yes, I believe, right?" And I was like, "No, but I believe," right? It was really interesting. And then we started talking about Shinjin, right? So Shinjin it's the core of our teaching, right? It's part of the core of our Nembutsu, of course, is part of it, right? Namo Amida Butsu. But it's Nembutsu and Shinjin. Right? Without Shinjin, Nembutsu is just something empty almost, right? You could have a parrot just recite it, or just teach a parrot to say it, or set up a recording to repeat it, right? And what's going on, right? And yet we don't talk about it. And I think part of the reason we don't talk about it that much is it's so hard to talk about. And I experienced this talking to my friend, my colleague, this other minister, right? And, for me to say, I have Shinjin, it's kind of problematic, right? And a lot of times I've heard another minister say, if you say you have Shinjin, that means you don't, right? So you're like, wait a second, okay. So is it something I can talk about, right? What does it mean? Is it just faith? Is it just a faith with sparkling eyes that I've been told it so many times that I believe it? Right? Or is it something deeper, right? Is it something where maybe my life has been changed, right? That me before that and me after that are so different, related, of course, and yet having encountered the Buddha Dharma, I was so fortunate to encounter it seemingly by chance, 35 years ago, and something happened. It took a while and to grow and germinate, and I had to study, and I moved out here, I left everything behind, and then realized, well, that's not necessarily what it's about, but potentially it's something life-changing, right? And seeing things differently afterwards. But putting that moment, right? Oh, I received Shinjin on January 20th, 1990. In our tradition, we're kind of like, we don't really do that, right? Because then it can turn into, when did you get it? oh, you didn't get it yet, right? So it's not something objective. It's very subjective and very hard to talk about, but I think also very important to talk about. I think that actually, as much as I don't like the word faith that much, I like this idea. We shall spread the happiness faith in Buddha brings, right? That if being Buddhist has made me happy, I want to share it. I can't help but share it. And it doesn't mean in a kind of missionary kind of way, just by being myself and being Buddhist, right? And that I think we share it just naturally, spontaneously. So just want to point out these various words, and I don't think I'm going to talk about it so much. Our theme is Golden Chain, compassion in action. So that maybe that's one question. How about I'll end with a question? Would Shinjin mean that I could be compassionate? Can I be compassionate without Shinjin? Is there a connection? I think part of Shinjin is seeing myself and realizing, whoa, and most of the time I'm not compassionate. Or maybe another way to put it is my compassion is limited. Right? And so in the talk I gave this morning with the cats, right? There are 3 cats out there. I rescued one, and $1,000 later I'm still going. If I tried to rescue all 3, I'd be $3,000 in the hole, right? And it's not like, oh no, I'm selfless. I'm not going to think about the money. I'm going to do everything I possibly can. No, I can't, because they're not the only cats out there. You have to rescue all the cats, right? And then I have to move on to dogs and chickens and whatever, right? So my compassion is limited. And yet, that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop trying to be compassionate. And maybe it's not only coming from myself. Maybe there's something bigger, right? Something moving in me to try and manifest this compassion, right? With the self-reflection and realizing when my ego is kicking in, which is most of the time, right? But so it's kind of a balance, I like to think. Middle way maybe would be one way to put it, right? We aspire for the wisdom and compassion of the Buddha with an awareness of my own foolishness and limitations. Not going too far in one direction or the other. Well, if we do, kind of swinging back, but we're always swinging back and forth. On the occasion of Shotsuki, it's really the list that we have and the names that I read at the beginning. I've been reading these names 15 years now, right? And the list does get bigger, right? We add in names. I think for each one of us, when we hear a name, boom, right? We hear it, and it's not like we're in control of what comes out, right? We hear the name, and it's just the name of the person I'm reading, and things come to mind. And it might not even be thoughts or pictures. It could be smells, right? Or it could be all kinds of things, right? And it might be different every time you come for the Shotsuki. And you might have other feelings the rest of the day. But what I like about our system is that the names that I read, these were real people that you knew. I knew some of them. I've met some of them who I didn't meet in person through you. Right? And yet also that they've become Buddha. Right? And that they are part of this wisdom and compassion now, right? Beyond the form that they had in their lives, and maybe we can encounter them even in our lives now. Not in the way we knew before, right? And yet still part of our lives, still encouraging us, still calling out to us with this voice of wisdom and compassion. One way this happens is through Namo Amida Butsu. We normally think of it as something I say, but it's actually the name of the Buddha. Right? And so we recite the name of the Buddha, and the name of the Buddha is resounding throughout the universe. Right? And so when we get to recite the Nembutsu, say Namo Amida Butsu, I think it's really special. We get to do it here in this context of the Shotsuki Monthly Memorial, but also, I hope, saying it in our everyday lives too. Right? Not only here, not only repeating after me, but we're here, so why don't please put our hands together and let's recite the Nembutsu, and I'd like to read the poem again from Shinran Shoni. Shakyamuni and Amida are our father and our mother, full of love and compassion for us. Guiding us through various skillful means, they bring us to awaken the supreme Shinjin. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda. Do you want to do any announcements or? Yeah, let's do Ondokusan II. The words will be on the screen, but they're also on page 76 in the small book and 220 in the large book. And let's sing it a cappella, because Steve left. Steve went to the American Obon thing. But don't worry, I'll sing into the mic. So, okay, ready, go. Nyorai dai no ondoku wa miyoko ni shite mo hozu beshi shishu chishiki no ondoku mo hone o kudakite mo shasu beshi. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda. Okay, Robert's going to try to share his screen for the announcements.
Okay, let's try this again. I had a problem in the first service, so let's see if we can get this to work this time. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. Welcome to the Buddhist Church of Oakland. And this is not, there we go, okay. Okay. Okay, again, want to thank everyone for being part of our Obon Festival last month. And this is just a scene from the Dharma School activity table that they had. That was pretty much full and busy for the entire 4 hours, as well as the dancing, which was terrific with the San Jose Chidori Band. What a beautiful day we had. Let's see. Okay, and special guest, Bombu Stories, with the Chidori Band. That was really nice for them to come and join us and perform for us. Okay. Our study class in Dharma Chat is going to restart in a couple of weeks. I'll announce that in just a moment. But it's also, all the information is on the website. So you're welcome to check that out. The full calendar for September and October are there, as well as all the study classes in Dharma Chat. The Dharma School went on a camping trip over the Labor Day holiday up to Tilden Park. It was just a terrific, they had a great time. So I was able to post some pictures from their event. Okay, it changed on my computer, but not on the screen. But our next service is going to be next Sunday, the 15th at 10 a.m., our Dharma family service. Our next Dharma chat will be on Sunday, September 22nd, after Follow Higan at 10:45. And then our next study class will be, I got kicked off of Zoom again, Saturday, September 21st from 1 to 3 p.m. And the topic of how do I get enlightened? And it's based on the book from Reverend Marvin Harada, Discovering Buddhism in Everyday Life. And if you'd like a copy, please see me, because we did purchase some copies already. But the text that we'll be using was already posted on the website. So, you're welcome to go ahead and go on the website and see what we're going to talk about. That's our study class and discussion. Our American Ballroom Dancing, those people already took off on the bus. And our Follow Higan service on Sunday, September 22nd. 10 o'clock Dharma School and Follow Higan service, our Dharma chat at 10:45, and our Otoki lunch at 11:30. So we thank you very much. You know that donations are welcome at any time through either through here or on the website through PayPal. And if you'd like to become a member, please don't hesitate to see us and ask us about that. We'd love to have you as part of the BCO family. Thank you very much for supporting the Buddhist Church of Oakland. And thank you for coming. We'll send it back to Sensei. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And this will conclude our September Shotsuki Monthly Memorial and Adult Dharma Service. Thank you for joining us. Why don't we conclude with Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, thank you.